Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Roller Coaster Tycoon scenario time-lapse gameplay. Here we are in Leafy Lake. The objective is 500 guests at the end of year 3. Another pretty easy scenario. I know as a kid I never really failed this one. I would do this one a lot. As a kid, I kind of consider this one my favorite. One of my favorites within the first, 10 or so scenarios. That's kind of like what most people play, is those first chunk of scenarios. And I kind of considered it my favorite as a kid, but now that I'm playing these again, so far of the 3 that I've done, I'm gonna have to say this is my least favorite so far. I would say Dynamite Dunes is still my number 1, and then Forest Frontiers at number 2, and then this one's last. I'll kind of rank these as I go, like a rough rank, I guess. But I don't know. I might do like a separate video on ranking my favorite scenarios, but I might have to do that until after I do them all, which might be a while. But I haven't done any of the expansions ever in my life, so it's going to be kind of interesting when I get there. But my strategy here for Leafy Lake, I actually did record me beating this Leafy Lake, and then I decided to do a different approach, and then I scrapped the footage and started over, and as you can see on the bottom right, and I don't know if anybody's noticed this already, but I let the game sit until the beginning of year 3, and then I didn't even start building until year 3. Because 500 guests is such a low guest count goal that I was like, I don't need to build so early on, and then 2 years later for guests to get bored of the same old rides, and there's no reason to keep building, because 500 guests, you don't need that many rides to reach that much. So I was like, you know, I'm just gonna let the game sit and don't build until year 3, because I think by the end of this scenario, at the end of October, I reached over 1,000 still. But yeah, that was my strategy. And I did get a comment on my last video, I believe it was, or it might have been 2 on the Forest Frontiers, but asking why I don't use OpenRCT for the scenarios. That's a great question. So I do like to use OpenRCT for my Mega Park videos, or any sort of video where I'm making something for fun. But when it comes to the scenarios, I like to use the base game and not OpenRCT. So I'm using the Steam version, straight from Steam. Roller Coaster Tycoon Deluxe. The reason I do that is because I don't like to see the cheat button there or anything that would help me with the scenario that wasn't in the original game, if that makes sense. And I know I would definitely not want to cheat anyways when it comes to the scenarios, and there's no really a reason to do that because these scenarios are pretty easy so far. But I don't know, I just like to use the base game for scenario gameplay, just because it's like an objective thing rather than building for fun. So eventually when I do Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 scenario gameplay time lapses, I'm going to do the same thing and use the Triple Thrill Pack and not do OpenRCT. That's just a preference of mine. I think most people do still use Open for these types of things, but I don't know, for the sake of this one, I'm going to stick with the original. So great question, and yeah, but for every other type of video that I'm going to make with building stuff for fun, I'm definitely going to use OpenRCT because there's so many cool functions and tips and tricks you can do, and it's HD, or a little bit better graphics, I believe, and then I have the widescreen advantage as well. So when it comes to my strategy here for Leafy Lake, I decided to do a quadrant strategy. I remember as a kid I would delete the path right away, the path that's given to you around the lake. I remember always wanting to delete that right away and just do it myself, but I just decided to keep it around because I think it is a nice spread of path. But I feel like I needed a little bit more path in the middle to connect everything. Otherwise, if guests needed to get from here to there, like on the opposite side of the lake, they would have to wrap all the way around. So kind of having these extra paths that kind of cut through the middle helps them get to certain rides that they're looking for. And then I did quadrants, and one quadrant I did like the rowboats, river rapids, log flume, just to kind of do a little water section, I guess. And then in another section I did a shuttle looping coaster and a reverse incline looping coaster. Both looping coasters, they're not synchronized, but they're right next to each other. And then a little later on I ended up building that water slide that went through the 2 loops. I didn't really have that idea in mind, but I just started building a water slide. I'm like, hey, that could work. But doing something like that where I'm building something in between the loops, that does help boost the excitement on the water slide that I'm currently building, and then the looping coasters as well. So it's kind of a win-win to kind of weave rides with each other to kind of boost the excitement. Yeah, and then I built a suspended swinging coaster on the end. I don't know if anybody heard that. That was a Discord notification. I don't know if that came through. And then I'm just kind of building flat rides, and I've mentioned this before, but when it comes to doing like the flat ride, or for any rides actually, I like to do one of every ride and not do duplicates of rides. But as a kid, that's what I always done. But this one I did build like a couple go-karts, and then obviously I did a couple dueling looping coasters. I believe I built 2 Ferris wheels as well, right in the beginning. As a kid, I would never do that. I hate the idea of having 2 Ferris wheels in one scenario park. I don't know. I'm just weird like that. But, you know, after watching so many like tutorial videos within the last 10 years, I've learned that guests don't view those as the same ride. So if I build 2 Ferris wheels, guests will see it as 2 different rides and appreciate both rides and pay for both rides. And having 2 Ferris wheels versus 1 Ferris wheel, you get more guests. So it's very interesting. And when it comes to food, drink, and restroom stalls, I always like to group them up next to each other too, so there's like an even amount of restrooms as food stalls and as drink stalls. So like if I have like 5 bathrooms in my park, I also will have 5 food stalls and 5 drink stalls. As a kid, that's how I always did it. I don't know. I don't know why I like to be organized like that. You know, I can't have more bathrooms than food stalls. I don't know. I'm just weird like that. I don't know. Don't really explain it, but yeah, I'm kind of wrapping up close to the end of the scenario here. I didn't really start until year 3, like I mentioned, because I let the game sit. And the thing with the strategy of not using OpenRCT, I don't have the speed button, but I did download a cheat engine that allows me to speed up the game, so that I don't have to sit here for 2 hours. But it was more like 5 minutes. So yeah, there's my scenario. I kind of zoomed out. I'm wrapping up here at the end of October. Let me know what you guys think. It's really just I'm just kind of a jumbled mess when it comes to my building style. You know, I don't really theme that much, and I don't really organize very much either, but when it gets to the later scenarios, I might have to do a little bit better organization. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.